the kingdom of Myrtana, united by King Robar II. During the long years of his reign, he was able to defeat all foes of his realm. All except one. The war against the orcs took its toll, and the prisoners of the realm were to pay the price. The king needed swords for his army, and every man guilty of a crime, no matter how insignificant, was forced to work in the ore mines of Korinis. To make it impossible for them to escape, the king sent out the best magicians of the kingdom to create a magic barrier around the entire valley. But something disturbed the delicate structure of magic. We were trapped inside our own barrier. The convicts took control of Korinis. The king had no choice. He had to negotiate. He needed the ore. But his former slaves now demanded a high price. Month after month, the king supplied everything the prisoners needed in exchange of tons of ore, until the present day. Another convict was brought to the lift. He did not know, but he would change everything.
Hello, you innocent Beliar worshippers! Annoyances fanboy here. You guys know me? If you took a 3-second look at my channel, you know how passionate I am about the Gothic games. So here I was, minding my own business on the wondrous thing that is the internet, and I find some pictures of THQ Nordic's Gothic 1 remake. And I thought, hey, wait a minute, what texture mod has this guy applied to his Gothic 1 to make it look like this? Because when I made my Let's Play of Gothic 1, the texture mod that I used looked like shit compared to this. So without hesitation, I simply had to give it a try. Needless to say, my mind was fucking blown into a million of ore nuggets. I made a joke during my Let's Playing saying, imagine if you could play Gothic 1 looking like this. Well, guess what, guys? This remake is a dream come true. If you want to see my full reaction to playing this blind for the first time, I highly recommend you check out my Let's Play, link is in the cards. During my Let's Play, I tried to give some feedback and to explain what I thought about the whole experience, but I feel like I didn't put it into words as well as I wanted to. So here I am making a video where I want to break it down and talk about all the aspects, both the things that I loved and the things that I didn't enjoy as much. But most importantly, I want to offer some constructive feedback. Let me preface by saying that nobody has paid me or asked me to talk about it or anything like that whatsoever. This is simply what I think about this remake as a huge fan of the Gothic series. All that being said, let's start this review because I have a lot to talk about. I propose that we take this step by step and talk about the various aspects in the order that I came across them in my Let's Play. This won't be a short video, and I will also make some comparisons between the remake and Gothic 1 to 3 and show you some footage. However, I have to warn you, I do not expect or want the Gothic remake to be a one-to-one carbon copy of the original. My thought during the Let's Play and now is whether or not this is a good RPG experience, so that's what I'll be focusing on. First things first, the demo takes place in the exchange zone of the penal colony, basically where you start in the original Gothic up until the road which leads to the valley where you meet the new camp hunters for the first time. In the original Gothic, clearing the same area that is presented in the Gothic remake took me less than 15 minutes in my Let's Play, and that's in the full completionist mode where I pick up and kill everything. Well, in the remake, the same area took me 3 hours to clear, also in completionist mode. So the question is, what has changed so much in this area that it took me over 10 times longer than the original? Well, everything. It is clear that Nordic wanted to offer a much better new player experience instead of just being thrown in there and left it up to you to figure it out or to quit, because let's be honest, the original Gothic can be pretty confusing when you start out, especially with the controls. So they have redone everything from scratch to make it much more accessible, both from the way the story is presented, but also the way you play and interact with the world. In the original Gothic, you are thrown in the lake and greeted by the boys from the old camp, with Diego showing up for the save.
Welcome to the colony.
That's enough.
Leave him alone. And now scram. Get up.
But now, you find yourself in the aftermath of an attack on the exchange zone. So you explore the zone a little bit before you find yourself overrun by snappers and rescued only moments before being eaten alive by none other than this dashing man.
You're still alive. Congratulations on surviving your first day.
When you wake up in the morning, Diego delivers all the exposition that you need. And boy, does he do a great job at it.
Yes, I believe I did. Although I don't remember very much of what happened yesterday.
You discovered the local fauna. Those beasts are very violent at night. Conversely, they're somewhat more docile during the day. Luckily, I arrived to hunt something for breakfast. Better than you, eh? Their meat is a bit tough, but it tastes better than rookie meat.
It also helps tremendously that short tutorials with motion pictures show you how the controls and the new systems work exactly when you need them. They were very clear and easy to understand, and the best part is that you can always review them in your log if you want to. Overall, I think this introduction is much more immersive and adventurous. It starts with so much mystery and so many unanswered questions, delivered in a way that it makes you beg for answers. And it fits perfectly with the fact that you're wet behind the ears, a total greenhorn who can barely hold a sword with 2 hands. Diego explains it perfectly. Your crimes and your old life don't matter. You're now a rookie in the colony, and this is a fight for survival. This introduction had me sold so badly. I was eating out of Diego's hand. I was so pumped up and ready for adventure. When you combine this with some of the other elements I will be talking about, the introduction felt so organic and seamless, and even though I had no intention of getting immersed before starting this teaser, it most certainly got me good in its grip. The next important thing that the demo got right were the characters and the dialogue. And I mean, holy shit, this was good. I think Diego was always meant to be this dashing rogue, and even though the rest of the Gothic games managed to capture this a little bit more, the original Gothic most certainly did not. In the remake, they got his personality down to a T. The way he looks, his body language, and most importantly his dialogue certainly help him be portrayed in the right way. What I loved the most was the way he delivered the dialogue. In your average games or movies, sometimes you get all this exposition blurted out to you and you have no time to stop and let your brain process this new information. But here, Diego makes pauses. Anybody who has ever delivered the speech should know how powerful and important pauses are. I'm sure there are some ADHD kids out there who have no patience and want to listen to everything at double speed, but they'll be missing out on the subtleties of the dialogue. The way Diego pauses, the way he gesticulates and articulates the important bits of information is nothing short of brilliant. I love this guy.
And what about the other camps?
Listen, rookie. Alongside the old camp, the new camp and the sect are nothing more than carnivals of mayhem and looting. In the old camp, you'll encounter people from those places who can better explain to you how things work here. As for me, I'll just tell you that the people in the new camp are a bunch of thieves and no scruples. And the people in the sect are all madmen, obsessed with certain herbs. As you can see, I'm speaking from a position of absolute impartiality.
This was by far the best Diego I have seen in all the 4 Gothic games, and yes, including Arcadia. I also greatly enjoyed the new characters they added, who were not in the original Gothic. I thought they were very well acted and interesting, with some very intriguing quests. I'm very glad that Nordic took the liberty to add their own creativity in the mix, because the new characters are not only well designed, but they all add something to the story and to the world. They help portray the world of Gothic in a much more believable manner. The convicts are opportunists, and they try to take advantage of each other, and most importantly, of newbies who are just sent to the colony. So it's down to you if you're going to fall for their tricks or turn the tables in your favor. The way the dialogue system works is also very well done and thought out. You get a bunch of choices, each represented by one word. If you highlight that word, you also get to see the full question you would get to ask. So if you're storming through a conversation, you can intuitively guess what the choices mean, but if you're not sure, you can also get more detail. Dialogue not only plays an important part in delivering exposition, but most importantly, your choices matter. You get to make quite a few choices in this demo, and not only do they have short-term consequences, but also long-term ones. Spare a man's life and he might become an important ally down the road. It comes down to choosing your friends carefully. If you choose to lie, or to be honest with Diego for instance, the game, but also Diego himself, lets you know that your choices will be remembered. The characters and the dialogue are a massive improvement over not only Gothic 1, but the entire series. They are leaps and bounds more interesting and engaging. Also tied to the characters is their design. I couldn't help but stop during my Let's Play and admire how everybody looks, especially the armors. I think Nordic have done the armor design justice. I'm glad they tried to be creative and not simply copy the design of the old game with better graphics. The armor of the protagonist in particular reminds me of Spartacus, which is a good thing because he's very cool looking. And speaking of looks, the game visuals are amazing. Just what you'd expect from a modern 2020 game. It was an absolute pleasure going around and looking at the world. I especially like how dark the nights were and how you needed a torch to see around. The light and shadows cast by the torch and the embers were all spot on. Overall, the textures, the design and the effects were all perfect. Absolutely glorious. I have nothing to reproach. One of the things I was concerned about is if the exploration is rewarding, and boy was I ecstatic to find out that it is. It paid out big time to go around and look for items. I found a ton of useful stuff, whether it was a map leading to a treasure, a lockpick to open a chest, consumables to use in combat, or simply ore nuggets. It always felt worthwhile to check in every corner, under every rock, or behind a bloody waterfall. Classic. I was especially delighted to find books which contain clues leading to secret stashes. The gear items I found were also a significant upgrade which helped me obtain the advantage in combat. There was a notification when you started the teaser saying that it would take you about an hour to finish it. Well, it took me 3 hours, not only because I kept finding useful items to pick up, but also because the world was gorgeously designed. They got this aspect so right, I was so excited to play more. The original Gothic had great exploration, no doubt, but this remake took it to the next level easily. Tied to the exploration are the quests. I'm so glad that they kept it vanilla with no quest markers on a map or anything like that. You are constantly given directions both by the characters or the items you find, so you have to go around exploring and learning the layout of the land. This in turn makes you care more about the environment and the world. I found it especially cool that the characters were gesticulating towards the objectives, so if you were paying attention, you could easily tell which way to go. Now here comes the big one, the combat. The combat was completely redesigned from the original Gothic, and in my opinion, it is 100% fitting for this game. It shares the same directional idea as the 2001 game, but it upgrades it to our modern days with stamina usage and well-timed attacks. I definitely sucked at it to begin with, but the more I practiced, the better I got, and I know that I still have a lot more to learn. And even though I got my ass kicked a lot, I was still eager to get back in there and try it again. I didn't find it frustrating or annoying whatsoever, by the contrary, it was very addicting and exciting. It's a system similar to For Honor or Kingdom Come Deliverance, which I do like. When you compare this to something like Gothic 3's left-click smashing, it's easy to see how much more realistic and nuanced the combat is. I also like the combat music, which for some reason reminded me a lot of Witcher 3's soundtrack. At the end of the day, I think what sealed the deal for me was the amazing attention to details. It was full of them. For instance, smashing meat bugs, If you have played Gothic 1 and 2, you know how annoying it is to swing your sword at them. But they do give experience and meat, so it's worth doing it. Well, this time around, you can just step on them and kill them with your boot. Something that I haven't seen that much, if at all, in other games, is how the protagonist interacts with the world. After he falls down from the elevator, he checks for wounds to see if he's hurt. Then he picks up the torch and lights it with the fire that is burning all around him. When he wants to pull the sword from the dead man, he looks for a place to leave the torch. Applying these realistic interactions to the game certainly helped elevate the immersion. An amusing thing is taking a piss in one of the pots you find throughout the world.
Oh, yeah. Oh, finally. I hope there's no scavenger around. I couldn't fight with this.
While it doesn't do anything pragmatic, it is a nice immersion feature that I happen to appreciate. One of the best would be the loot guy at the gate, playing the song from the original Gothic, which was a very nice nostalgia trip. And speaking of nostalgia, the redesign of the old mine was amazing. Definitely one of my favorite moments in the demo. Alright, I've talked about the things that I like in the demo, but there are a few things that I thought could use an improvement as well. Let's begin with my biggest gripe, the talk notifications. They were absolutely annoying and immersion breaking. When you approach an NPC, you have one notification to speak with him above his head, one at the bottom of your screen, and finally a character highlight. Nordic, please, no. At least give us the option to turn them off modularly. Here's an example of how Witcher 3 does it. A simple E indicator above the head with a small talk text above their name. It's not in your face and it barely takes any screen at all. No highlighting. I also didn't enjoy the quest markers above their heads. I think the quests and the indications you get are clear enough not to need such quest markers. They might not be a yellow exclamation sign, but they are still distracting, especially for a game where immersion is one of its main features. The second thing is the health bar and the stamina bar. The same argument as before. While I did appreciate their practicality in combat, was there really no other way? Could we at least have the option to turn them off outside of combat? It was distracting me from the exploration and breaking immersion because how they wobble. I like how minimalist the UI is apart from these things. It definitely is helping with immersion. However, I do like the loot indicator because it made it easy for me to find the loot, and if there's anything I hate as a completionist is missing out on the loot. The third thing I didn't agree with was the inventory pause. It felt like a cheat. You can use the quick access menu, which slows down time, but why would you? You can simply open up your inventory in the middle of a fight and do whatever you want. In Gothic 1, 2, or 3, opening the inventory didn't stop time, which meant you had to prepare yourself ahead of time, not during the battle. In this demo, I felt completely safe because of the inventory pause. Whenever I was in danger, I could just open it and heal up with no consequences. Made even worse by the lack of animations for eating and drinking. I think that overall this took away from the combat experience and its difficulty. And speaking of which, the fourth thing is regarding combat. While for the most part I did love the combat, I feel like it in its current state, it's more like a rough diamond. There were plenty of situations when I felt like I was hitting the air even though I was clearly aiming at the enemy. I felt like the animations could do with a little bit more tweaking to make them feel more fluent. They are definitely in the right direction, but maybe not quite fleshed out yet. The fifth thing were the invisible walls. It was hard to tell when exactly I was going to fall off a cliff and when I wasn't going to. It's the same thing with the river. Is it not possible to allow for swimming like it was in the original Gothic? There were no invisible walls in Gothic as far as I can remember. Either you are stopped by the impassable terrain such as mountains, or by the barrier which would have killed you if you went too far. Invisible walls hurt the immersion. It's very distracting when you find a path that you think might lead to something cool and you just get stopped by invisible walls on the way. And finally, the jumping distance. My character felt completely anemic when it came to jumping. He would get an F in a high school physical test. I could barely jump over a small gap between some rocks and couldn't even jump over a fence that was below my knees. It felt strange. Aside from these, there might have been a bug here or there, but they weren't a design choice like the things I brought up, so they're not worth mentioning. Overall, if I were to put all of this in a nutshell, it was an exceptional experience. If this demo is any indicator for how the game could turn up once fully released, then I strongly believe it has the potential to surpass all of the existing Gothic games. As long as Nordic does the original story justice and gives us a good boss fight at the end, where we get to use all the tools and skills we have acquired up to that point, and not a different game mode like it was in Gothic 1 and Risen 1, then it should turn out excellent. I hope they keep it up with the creative side and add new characters, because the ones they added in this demo were both interesting and they contributed to the world. There should be plenty of room for creativity in the penal colony. I would like to close by saying that the original Gothic holds a special room in my heart. It was the first ever RPG I've ever played, all the way back in middle school, and we all know how you never forget your first love. My mom would only allow me half an hour of computer time per day, so to circumvent that, I had to put an alarm clock under my pillow and wake up at 4 AM in the morning and play Gothic. I would put a blanket over my head covering the monitor and I would play Gothic until I'd pass out. I've replayed it many times over the years, but I believe this demo brought back some of that excitement I felt as a kid. So thank you Nordic for doing such a wonderful job and rekindling this timeless memory. You have my respect and applause. Whenever this game is released, it gets at least 3 Let's Plays from me right here on YouTube, so I very much look forward to it. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please send some love to Nordic and encourage them to make this game a reality. Have a great day.